Good day and good night. Welcome to the High and Low Retrospective, where we press rewind and play back the shows that redefined television, reshaped culture, and rewired our expectations of what a TV drama could be. Today, we're stepping into North Jersey, peeling back the layers of family, identity, and violence, and revisiting the series that made audiences rethink everything they thought they knew about mob stories. This is The Sopranos. Okay, let's set the scene. When The Sopranos premiered in January of 1999, the TV landscape was very different. Broadcast still reigned supreme. NBC's Friends and ER were dominating ratings. Frasier was racking up Emmys, and family sitcoms like Everybody Loves Raymond and Home Improvement were weekly staples. Over on cable, there was very little competition in the original scripted drama space. HBO had carved a niche with adult-oriented content like Oz and the Larry Sanders Show, but nothing had yet broken into the mainstream like the network's biggest shows. In short, television was still considered a second-tier medium compared to film. The phrase prestige TV hadn't yet entered the lexicon. Then came Tony Soprano. The Sopranos wasn't just a critical darling, it was a tectonic shift. This wasn't a procedural, it wasn't a sitcom, it was cinematic, serialized, psychological. It dared to tell the story of a deeply flawed anti-hero, a mob boss in therapy, and treat it with nuance, complexity, and moral ambiguity. It set the tone for everything that would come after. Breaking Bad, Mad Men, The Wire, Boardwalk Empire, Succession, you name it. David Chase, a veteran TV writer with credits on shows like The Rockford Files and Northern Exposure, originally envisioned The Sopranos as a feature film. The more he developed the concept about a depressed mobster balancing therapy and organized crime, the more it became clear that the format required something bigger, more expansive. Chase pitched the idea to HBO, a network willing to take risks in a way that broadcast wasn't. They saw the potential, and with a green light and creative freedom rarely afforded to TV creators at the time, The Sopranos became a reality. James Gandolfini, a character actor known for roles in True Romance and Get Shorty, was cast as Tony, a move that initially raised eyebrows but ultimately became one of the greatest casting decisions in TV history. The supporting cast was equally impressive. Edie Falco as Carmela, Tony's wife, Michael Imperioli as Christopher Moltisanti, his volatile protege, Lorraine Bracco as Dr. Melfi, his therapist, and Dominic Chianese, Stephen Van Zandt, Tony Sirico, and others forming an ensemble that felt like they stepped out of a Scorsese film and onto your screen.
Now, you don't love me anymore, well, that breaks my heart, but it's still bad, because you don't gotta love me, but you will respect me.
At its core, The Sopranos is about duality. Tony is a devoted father and a ruthless killer. He's both protector and predator. He craves peace but thrives in chaos. The show tracks his sessions with Dr. Jennifer Melfi, who becomes our entry point into his psyche and his soul. Through therapy, we see Tony grapple with anxiety, family pressures, past trauma, and the increasingly untenable balance between his two worlds. And the brilliance of the show is how that premise is stretched, explored, and recontextualized over 6 seasons. It's not just about the mob. It's about America, masculinity, power, race, class, therapy, and the illusion of control. Tony's constant posturing, his need for dominance, and refusal to fully confront his emotional vulnerability reflect the broader crisis of masculinity. He's a man taught to suppress weakness and equate control with worth, but the cracks are always showing through his panic attacks, violent outbursts, and existential dread. In this way, The Sopranos becomes a meditation on what it means to be a man in a world where the rules are shifting, but the old codes still haunt the living.
Are you in the mafia?
Am I in the what?
Whatever you want to call it. Organized crime.
I'm in the waste management business. Everybody immediately assumes you're mobbed up.
The Sopranos didn't just find an audience. They built a cult following and then a cultural consensus. Critics hailed it as revolutionary. The New York Times called it one of the greatest series in television history. As early as its second season, it won 21 Primetime Emmys, 5 Golden Globes, a Peabody, But more than awards, it changed how critics talked about TV. Suddenly, television was art. Commercially, it was a monster. The season 4 premiere drew 13.4 million viewers, HBO's highest rated episode of an original series at the time. And unlike typical ratings spikes that fade, The Sopranos maintained momentum. Water cooler conversations turned into cultural movements. Tony's panic attacks, Christopher's screenwriting dreams, Adriana's fate. These moments were dissected like Shakespeare. What's more impressive is that it achieved this without the benefit of streaming or social media. This was appointment viewing in the truest sense. Families, roommates, and strangers gathered weekly to see what would happen next in North Jersey. When The Sopranos ended on June 10, 2007, the world held its breath and then gasped. The final scene, set in the diner with Journey's Don't Stop Believin' playing, was controversial to say the least. I won't go into too much detail in case you haven't seen it yet, but it set the TV world on fire. Critics scrambled to explain it. Fans either called it genius or betrayal, but the ambiguity was intentional. David Chase forced us to confront the nature of death, of storytelling, of closure itself, and, well, we're still talking about it today.
Your new George Foreman grill will tell you exactly when your food is grilled to perfection.
This grill does all the work for you.
The Sopranos didn't just redefine television. It redefined what television could be. Before Tony Soprano sat in that therapist chair, wrestling with his panic attacks and mob boss baggage, prestige TV didn't really exist as a concept. There were great shows, yes, of course, but The Sopranos kicked open the doors for complex anti-heroes, morally ambiguous storytelling, and cinematic ambition on the small screen. Without Tony, there's no Don Draper, no Walter White, no Dexter Morgan, no Logan Roy. David Chase's creation showed us that a TV protagonist didn't have to be likable to be compelling, that stories could simmer, that audiences were hungry for nuance. The show's influence extended beyond the character work. It elevated the role of showrunner to auteur status. It made HBO a powerhouse and ushered in a golden age of television that we're arguably still living in, or at least chasing. Its impact is baked into the DNA of Breaking Bad, Mad Men, The Americans, Boardwalk Empire, Ozark, and countless others. From the integration of music, think Don't Stop Believin', to the use of long-form story arcs, The Sopranos changed the pacing, tone, and texture of episodic storytelling. But is it the greatest TV show of all time? Here's where the debate begins. Some will argue yes, and they have the receipts. Critical acclaim, Emmys, cultural footprint, and the fact that nearly 20 years later, people still debate that final scene. It was groundbreaking, it was literary, it was uncompromising, but others point to The Wire, a show that didn't just dissect one man's inner life, but deconstructed an entire American city and the institutions that failed it: education, law enforcement, politics, the press. Where The Sopranos honed in on the personal, The Wire was sprawling and systemic. Then there's Breaking Bad, which some claim refined what The Sopranos started. Walter White's descent felt tighter, more plotted, with less ambiguity and a more definitive arc. Vince Gilligan often cited The Sopranos as the blueprint, but built on its foundations to deliver a leaner, more genre-focused thriller with more consistent pacing, especially in its back half. In the end, The Sopranos may not be the greatest in every category. It had slower seasons, it lingered, it made choices that infuriated fans, but what can't be denied is this: without The Sopranos, the conversation about greatest TV show of all time doesn't even exist. It birthed the golden age, shaped the language of TV criticism, and turned the living room into the new cinema. So that's the High and Low Retrospective on The Sopranos, a show that cracked open the soul of a mob boss and, in the process, opened the door for an entire generation of prestige television. Whether you think it's the greatest, the most influential, or simply the one that got you hooked on complex TV in the first place, it belongs in the conversation. If you've never seen it, this is your sign. If you have, maybe it's time to sit down and Satch Realities one more time. What else are you going to do?
Don't listen to this guy.
Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing. Join us again for more deep dives into the shows, movies, and music that define generations. Until next time, stay curious, stay nostalgic, and remember,
to the victor belongs the spoils.
Why don't you get the out of here before I shove your quotations book up your fat ass?